Hey fight fans, welcome back to the Fight Book. This is the Indian Action Guy, and today again we have some massive fight news, including UFC 317 main event official confirmation from Dana White and some top level fight announcements outside of the UFC, including Henry Cejudo and Arman Tsarukyan's next fight. So to stay updated, keep watching the video. Let's start the video from Ilia Topuria's latest interview, where he confirmed that he will be fighting either Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 on June 28th. Which means if JDM beats Bilal this weekend and Islam fights JDM next, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight belt is confirmed. Topuria says the only reason Islam doesn't want to fight him is because he knows I'm going to beat him. Anyway, Ilia also changed his nickname back to El Matador, and this decision was made as he felt the new nickname of La Leyenda had not been publicly accepted. Anyway, Arman Tsarukyan also shared a video where he says the result of JDM vs Bilal fight will also affect his future as well, as after UFC 315 it will be clear who is fighting for the belt and who he is fighting next. Anyway, after all these talks, this question was asked from Dana White himself at UFC 315 press conference, where White confirmed that what Ilia Topuria said in his interview was true, and the outcome of Bilal vs JDM will determine Topuria's next fight. Anyway, at the press conference, Bilal Muhammad says that JDM is about to see the greatest MMA performance he has ever seen in his life. In response, JDM replied he would be pretty embarrassed if Bilal broke him because Bilal has never broken anyone. Anyway, the highlight of that press conference was when Jack Della Maddalena was asked about Ian Gary's son gifting him M&Ms.
I don't think that's actually Ian's son. And I don't like M&Ms.
Anyway, Dana White was asked about Ian Machado Gary as well, that if he is next for the title or not, and Dana replied Gary is next if anything happened between Bilal vs JDM before UFC 315, but he is not next after UFC 315 fight. And after hearing Dana White's response, the number one welterweight contender Sean Brady calls out Gary for a number one contender spot to determine the next title challenger. Anyway, after intense face-offs yesterday at weigh-ins, 23 out of 24 athletes competing at UFC 315 made weight, and the only fighter who missed weight by 1 pound was Bruno Silva. Anyway, his fight against Marc-Andre Barriault is still on, with Silva forfeited the 20% of his purse. Another highlight from the weigh-in show was that Jose Aldo and Ayman Zahabi was moved up to the featherweight division as Aldo was going to miss the bantamweight limit. Zahabi says he was on weight and the UFC renegotiated with him and they gave him an offer which he accepted. Zahabi didn't reveal that what was the offer. Now let's move towards the rumor of Robert Whittaker versus Rainier de Ridder. As I told you yesterday that this could be a fake news, now RDR's manager Ali Abdulaziz confirms that this is a fake news. What is not fake is that RDR, Robert Whittaker and Ikram Aliskerov, all three fighters have their fight announcement coming soon, so it could be a possibility two of these three fighters are facing each other. Anyway, the fighter RDR beat this past Saturday. Bo Nickel sends a message to his haters following this loss. He says he will get back to the top again, and when he will become the champion, he'll spit on his haters' face. Now, last news from the UFC section, we have Randy Brown, who suffered a broken hand in his KO victory over Nicholas Dalby. The recovery time is 6 to 8 weeks for this injury, and he will be back to training after that recovery time. Moreover, UFC fighter Douglas Silva de Andrade and PFL and former UFC fighter Tyler Santos both have been suspended for 6 months because of their failed drug tests. Talking about PFL, Francis Ngannou finally breaks his silence following reports of him being involved in a motorcycle accident that resulted in a loss of a young woman's life. He confirmed this news and says from the very beginning he has been by the family's side, offering support, comfort and deepest condolences during this time. Another news from PFL is that PFL Paris on May 23rd has been postponed. The event was set to feature Mansour Bernoulli in the main event, the return of Taylor Lapillus, and the amateur debut of Manchester United legend Patrice Evra. One of the fighters from Belgium, 6-0 Patrick Habirora, is now booked to headline PFL Belgium card on July 5th against his fellow undefeated fighter from Belgium, Boris Artangana. ONE FC also announced that an injury setback has forced their bantamweight champion Stamp Fairtex to withdraw from ONE 173. The champion will relinquish her MMA title, and the interim champion Denise Zamboanga, who was scheduled to face her in the main event of that card, is now the undisputed ONE atomweight MMA champion. The promotion says that they will now return to Denver in 2026. Anyway, Eddie Hall, who is coming off his debut win over Mariusz Pudzianowski, told Ariel Helwani that his contract with KSW is a 2-fight deal, including a rematch with Pudzianowski. Hall says the rematch will likely happen in November. Former Bellator champion Ryan Bader has now signed with Ryzen and will fight the winner of the Ryzen Heavyweight Grand Prix on New Year's Eve. And now some official fight announcements. ADXC announced their ADXC 10 card in Moscow, Russia on May 31st, which will be headlined by UFC #1 ranked lightweight Arman Tsarukyan versus Patricio Pitbull's brother Patricky Fiere. It will be a grappling match. Another grappling match is announced by Henry Cejudo, who confirmed that he will be grappling in Kazakhstan against 30-2 MMA fighter Khairat Akhmedov. That card is expected to take place on May 27th. And now finally some fight announcement from BKFC. BKFC lightweight champion Franco Tenaglia will be defending his belt against Tony Soto in a rematch on June 21st at BKFC, Texas. It will be Tenaglia's first defense after winning the vacant lightweight belt by beating Soto via majority decision. Next, BKFC middleweight champion David Mundell will be defending his belt for the 4th time against Donald Sanchez, who is riding a 4-fight win streak, on June 6th at BKFC 75 in New Mexico. Then in BKFC Hollywood, Florida on July 12th, their number 3 ranked heavyweight Leonardo Perdomo will headline this event against their number 2 ranked and former champion Arnold Adams. Perdomo is 7-0 in BKFC with all fights ending in the first round. Then the last card is announced for June 14th in Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. It will be headlined by Parker Porter, who will be returning after his successful BKFC debut against Dylan Klecker, who is riding a 2-fight losing streak in BKFC. Former UFC fighter Randy Costa will also make his BKFC debut against Nick Burgos in the undercard, and another former UFC fighter, Brian Boom Kelleher, will also make his debut against an opponent to be announced. And that's all in this video, because now you are completely updated with the fight world. Now hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and give your feedbacks in the comment section. And then before closing the video, watch Raul Rosa Jr. making the first ever guest on his podcast walk off immediately.
Alright, so Jimena, what are you gonna do when Drake puts the 9 inches in you? Oh wait.
What the fuck?